Welcome to Rise and Shine, your daily business tech boost with me, Charly Leetham. If you're a small business owner looking to simplify technology and get real, actionable advice from someone with 35 years of IT experience, you're in the right place. Every episode, I'll dive into tools and systems like email, CRM, marketing and tracking, and I'll break them down into bite-sized tips you can use straight away. Your time is valuable, so let's get straight to the point. It's time to work smarter, not harder. Rise and shine. It's your daily dose of business tech inspiration with me, Charly Leetham. Episode number 570 today. I can't believe it's 570 episodes. Another talky episode, just something, hopefully it's a short one, hopefully. We're going to talk about content delivery networks or CDNs. I am sure you have all seen them pop up in your SEO recommendations, and people say, oh, you should have a CDN. Just go and install a CDN and you'll be sweet, or put it into a CDN and you'll be sweet. And if you're anything like me, you sometimes just sit there and go, why all the jargon? What the hell does this mean? I know when people say CDNs, you're like, just go put on this plugin and click this button and sign up for this service and it'll all just work. But wouldn't it be nice to know what it actually means and what it actually does for you? That's what this episode's about. So CDN is a content delivery network. It is basically a group of servers that are placed around the world. So you're going to have some in Asia or in the Asia Pacific region. You're going to have some in the North American region, some in the European region, some I don't know what the other regions are. Geography was not a strong point for me. And the idea is that you've got them dotted around the world. And then when you connect your site to them, you set up a connection to them. You say, yeah, I'm going to use the CDN. And what that does is that puts a copy of all of your website's static files, your images, your scripts, your style sheets, your videos, anything that doesn't change. Static means it doesn't change, and puts a copy of those up into that network of servers. And then when someone tries to visit your site, the CDN will send those static files from the server closest to them. So what that does is, if you've got, let's just go back to a little bit of basics here. When you go and request a file or request information from a web server, your request goes to the web server. The web server churns, it does its thing, and it runs its scripts, and it runs the PHP code or the ASP code or the Python code or the Java that runs on your site, and it generates the page that people want to see. Now, two things happen there. That page is comprised of static files, the images, the scripts that run on it, the style sheets, any videos. Yep, that's pretty much it. That's the static files. And then the content, which is often stored in the database, which is normally stored in the database, particularly when we're talking about things like WordPress websites, Wix websites, Squarespace websites, Shopify. I'm sure there's another one that I've missed there, but let's just move on. And what it does then, that content is pulled from the database. The things that generally take the longest to load are the static files, because if you go back through any number of the episodes that I've done on this podcast, you'll hear me talk about optimizing your image sizes so that it doesn't take as long to load, because they've got to download to your computer. So that's the first thing that happens, is that your web server actually has to do the work, the processing, to generate the page to display to people. The second thing that happens is that those files need to download to the local computer. The third thing that happens is that request that you send out, or maybe it's even the first thing that happens, is that request goes out from your computer to wherever your website is hosted within the world. So if you've got a visitor from America and your website is hosted in Australia, that request goes from America through any number of routers and interconnects to get to the server in Australia. Each point in that transit introduces a delay. So we now have several things happening here. We've got the amount of time it takes for the request to actually hit the server to begin with, the amount of time it takes for the server to process the request, generate the page or the information that is requested, the transit time to get back to your computer, your visitor's computer, and be displayed. That's it. That's it. Yep. So that all adds up. Now we are talking microseconds or milliseconds per transit. We are talking microseconds or milliseconds generally to process uh, a request on the server. But each one of those adds up. So if you've got a 2 millisecond delay and a 2 millisecond delay and a 5 millisecond delay, you could end up with it being over a second for the time from the time that the request goes out to the time it gets a response back. It can be over a second. Doesn't sound long, does it? Time how long it takes you to get annoyed when you're waiting for a page to load these days, and see how long a second really is. It's a very, very long time. So what a CDN does is it first of all takes all of those static files, it takes time to display, puts them up into this series of servers, and then when you send out a request, that request, whilst the request might transit through to the end server to begin with, the communication happens between the closest server to your PC as possible. That delays the transit time. There is an initial transit time while the content's being displayed, but once it's happened and you've got to get down all of those images and scripts and style sheets, you've just taken out all of that backlog behind you and put it onto the CDN and letting the CDN do it. So you're actually accessing, or your visitor is accessing your content closer to their location. So that reduces the transit time. So that's one reason why a CDN is great. The other reason is that the CDN can actually cache your files. Now, I say cache and I get a cold shiver down my back, because most of the issues I have when we're trying to resolve problems with websites is that it's cached and the cache hasn't refreshed. So we've got a mismatch of old files and new files, and they've just not updated, and I've got to go and flush the cache, like clear the cache and make it reload. So I always think about caching, and I'm always a little careful about, well, yeah, just go and put the cache on, it's fine. No, you've still got to work on making sure that you've got your cache configured correctly. If you use a CDN, the cache is generally there. They do a really good job at maintaining it, and then we can do some magic in the back end between the CDN and your web server to make sure that it is continually updating that cache if static files change. Now, some CDNs, I'm also reading my notes here, so bear with me. Some CDNs can also compress images and scripts, making the pages load even faster. Now, I have spoken about the importance of optimizing your images and optimizing your scripts when you put them up. I've done videos on plugins that you can use to do that. You can offload that to the CDN. It just depends on what functionality the CDN has, what levels you want to pay for it. Once you start doing these things in the CDN, there will be a cost associated with it. I'm going to talk about which ones you can use shortly, and which ones are free, and which ones are going to cost you a bit of money. But if you want to take the processing off of your server and keep your server as light as possible, so it only is processing requests to serve data, moving that function up into the CDN is a really good idea as well. But the net result is that your pages load faster no matter where in the world your visitors are. The other thing it can do is it can take the load off of your server, meaning that you may not need to do server upgrades to get more memory to make it run faster. Just a thought. All right. Why is this all important? Like, why am I talking about making our pages faster? And I'm sure I've implied it all the way through. It helps your SEO and it keeps your visitors happy. As I said right at the beginning, if you don't think 1 second is a very long time or 2 seconds is a very long time, wait until a page loads, and it does take 2 seconds to load, and see how long it really feels then. Uh, Pretty much users expect pages. Look, I've got a metric here of under 3 seconds. Anything, if you can get it faster than that, then it absolutely should be. But once you hit 3 seconds, you're going to start losing visitors. If you have a slow site, if images are slow to load, if scripts are slow to load in your page and they don't get the full effect of your page, your website, they're going to move on. They're going to go to the next guy and see if someone else can give them the information quicker. So by doing that, you're going to lose your sales, you're going to lose your leads, you're going to lose your prospects. So having a fast site is important in that respect. Google uses page speed as part of its SEO ranking factors. Look, I like Google page speed. I like the SEO, understanding what the SEO ranking features are. It's important to understand the relative importance of all of these things to the ranking factors. Yes, speed is important. There are other factors that are probably more important as well. So just bear in mind that whilst it's important, you've got to look at this as a holistic thing, not just one thing and say, we've got to get this 100% right, because you've got whole other things. And if you can get 80% of the things to 80% of the measurement, you're going to be a lot better off than getting 1% to 100% of the measurement. So you've got reduced load time for images, videos, and scripts. You've also got some protection there from traffic spikes. So because the content is spread out across a wider series of servers, if you've got one area that starts to hammer your site, like you've done a promotion and you're seeing an increase in traffic, the CDN will spread that out for you. The CDN will take that load for you and make it a little easier to cope with. It doesn't mean that your server doesn't need to be able to cope with it, but you can spread that load across a wider net, if you like. CDNs can also provide you with some security features like DDoS protection, so distributed denial of service attack protection, and bot filtering. I will say that one of the CDNs I use, I'm going to explain them shortly, has actually introduced an AI bot filter. And now when you turn it on, it says, do you want to turn on AI bot filtering? And I'm like, yeah, please. Why do I want to turn on AI bot filtering? Well, you've got to have a very strategic method in play to decide whether you want the AIs to be searching your site, to be serving up your content in answers to other people's questions. It is a valid SEO tactic. It is a valid get people searching for me are finding me tactic, but they can also take up an awful lot of resources by the amount of traffic they send to your site just to go through and troll your site to get the information out of it. So I tend to turn it on and then back it off to work out where that sweet spot is. What do we have as CDNs that you consider? Well, my absolute favorite, and I've spoken about it before, is Cloudflare. There is a free level, there is a free option. It doesn't give you all the bells and whistles, but what it does do is it gives you your DNS management, it gives you a CDN, it gives you basic bot level filtering, bot filtering. You can turn on DDoS attacks, DDoS protection. So if you think you're getting hit and you're not sure whether you're actually experiencing a DDoS attack, you can turn up that protection on, and it will just cut it and make sure that your site is protected, your server stays up and running. What else is in there? There's a couple of other things in there, but they're the main things that I use Cloudflare for. It's fantastic. Sorry. There are some paid options as well. So Cloudflare has a free option, and then it's got various levels depending on what you want to do. I think the pro level is like $20 a month at the moment. It's actually not bad. I don't find the need to use it for most of the sites that I help support. but it does have extra bits and pieces on it. You also get like a level of support and such with that you don't necessarily get with the free one. The other one that people will be more familiar with is Amazon CloudFront, and I believe DigitalOcean is also bringing out or has bought out a similar offering as well. I just haven't got into looking at it. How do we set it up? What does it work with? Does it work with every site? The answer is typically, yeah, it works with every site. It absolutely works with WordPress. It can work with Shopify. It can work with Wix. Yes, it can work with Wix. It can work with Squarespace. You might need a little bit of help to get it set up and installed properly. You don't need any coding. Pretty much what you do is you go and add your site to the CDN that you want to use. It says, what's your domain name? You enter your domain name, and then it will walk you through the steps on how you can get your domain name using the CDN and what you might need to do on your websites to make that work. With WordPress, for example, I point the name service for the domain name to Cloudflare. I set up all of the DNS so that people will talk to Cloudflare, and then it will on forward the traffic to my website. I may put a plugin on the website to do a little bit more tuning with Cloudflare on the website. Typically, I don't need to. I've got it down to a pretty schmicks setup at the moment that it just kind of runs. And that's it. That's it. If I want to go and change the DNS entries, I go to Cloudflare. If I want to have a look at my traffic stats, I can go to Cloudflare and look at Cloudflare. If I need an SSL certificate, I go to Cloudflare. That's the other thing it offers. That's the other thing Cloudflare offers, is it free SSL. You can get free SSL certificates for up to 15 years. And you just set it up, tell your web server to use this SSL certificate for this domain name. And unless something goes drastically wrong, it doesn't fail. So that is why you would want to use a CDN. I hope it helps explain what a CDN does. It's not just a matter of, just go put it on and it'll make everything work. As with most things, it's really not quite as simple as point and click and it's all working. There is a little bit of work to do in the background. It does help to understand the basics of what you're doing and why you're doing it, because then if you've got problems, you can go back and troubleshoot it. But a CDN basically helps you distribute your traffic or your server, your site across a wider net of servers to improve the page speed, to improve your page loading, to make sure your site visitors get a better experience when they come to visit your site. It's got a couple of extra nice little features that go with it. And honestly, I haven't looked back since I've been putting sites into Cloudflare and letting Cloudflare handle all of that for me. Anyway, do you have any questions, queries, feedback? Have I said something that you didn't agree with? Did I not say something that you wanted me to say? In other words, did I raise questions that I didn't answer in doing this video? If you do, you can come across to my community, askcharlyleetham.locals.com, and join the conversation there. You can always leave comments wherever you are watching or listening to this video. If this video was useful to you, please give it a like. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell so you find out when I drop more content. And guys, I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye. Hey there, thanks so much for tuning in to Rise and Shine, your daily business tech boost. I hope today's episode gave you some actionable insights that will make your business tech work smarter for you. If you found value, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other small business owners who could use a daily boost. For more tips, tools, and resources, visit www.askcharlyleetham.com. Until next time, keep rising, keep shining, and let's make tech simple together.